Welcome back to The Explainer. So today, we're not just flipping through some dry geography textbook chapter. We are actually unpacking the ultimate blueprint for humanity's survival, which is resource and development. Seriously, this is the master framework that dictates how societies grow, how our economies function, and ultimately, how we manage to sustain life on this giant rock we call home. So get ready, because we're going to completely change the way you look at the physical world around you.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our roadmap for today. Number 1, rethinking what resources are. Number 2, the 4 resource categories. Number 3, planning sustainable development. Number 4, land and soil resources. And finally, number 5, conservation for the future.
All right, let's kick things off with part 1, rethinking what resources are. Now, before we can even talk about developing resources, we kind of need to bust a pretty major myth. Are resources just free gifts of nature? I mean, think about it. Is a lump of coal sitting in the ground completely untouched actually a resource? Well, the short answer is no. It's a huge misconception. A raw element sitting in the earth isn't really a resource until human beings interact with it. It requires active human intervention. We have to use our technology and build institutions to actually transform those raw, natural materials into something of value. So nature provides the ingredients, sure, but humanity has to actually bake the cake.
Which brings us to this super precise definition. A resource is basically everything available in our environment that we can use to satisfy our needs. But it comes with a really strict condition. It has to pass what I like to call the rule of 3. First, it's got to be technologically accessible, meaning we actually have the tools to extract and use it. Second, it has to be economically feasible, meaning it doesn't cost more to pull out of the ground than it's actually worth. And third, it has to be culturally acceptable, meaning society actually wants it and allows its use. If you want to really master this topic, remember this specific condition. Without tech, the economy, and culture all aligning perfectly, nature's gifts just remain completely untapped.
Moving right along to Section 2, the 4 resource categories. Now, what's really interesting about this breakdown is how it perfectly organizes everything we rely on. To understand the sheer complexity of our planet, we classify everything into 4 distinct buckets. First up, by origin. Are they living, biotic things, like forests, or abiotic things, like metals? Then we categorize them by exhaustibility. Is it renewable, like solar power, or non-renewable, like fossil fuels? Then there's ownership. Is it an individual's plot of land, a community park, a national forest, or maybe an international ocean? And finally, the status of development. This ranges from potential resources we know are there to developed ones we're actively using right now, all the way to stock and reserves that we're basically holding onto for future technology. It's just a brilliant taxonomy of human survival.
That brings us to part 3, planning sustainable development.
So, once humanity figured out how to categorize our vast inventory, we hit a pretty terrifying realization. The warehouse? Yeah, it's not infinite. We desperately needed a plan before our vital resources simply ran out. And this triggered a massive global shift. 1992 was absolutely the pivotal year here. Global leaders gathered at the Rio Earth Summit, and they recognized the planet was literally being pushed to the brink. This led directly to the adoption of Agenda 21, which is a comprehensive blueprint for global sustainable development. And what's wild is that global mandate trickled all the way down to national levels, creating the rigorous systems of resource planning we see in places like India today. It's this continuous, direct thread from a global wake-up call to actual on-the-ground management.
Let's move to Section 4 and see how this builds. Land and soil resources.
Let's see how all that global theory translates to the literal ground beneath our feet. Looking specifically at India's geographic profile, you've got 43% plains. That's your agricultural powerhouse, the flat land where food grows and cities expand. Then you have 30% mountains, which are absolutely crucial for tourism, ecological balance, and river flows. And finally, 27% plateaus. These are the rugged storehouses packed with all those rich minerals and fossil fuels we were just talking about. Every single terrain type plays an irreplaceable role in the broader economy.
But let's zoom in even closer here. Beyond just the broad shape of the land, we really have to talk about the literal dirt. Soil is an essential, finite resource. It is the absolute foundation for all agricultural survival. Without healthy soil, that 43% of plains we just looked at, utterly useless. It takes millions of years to form just a few centimeters of topsoil, which means, on a human timescale, once it's gone, it is literally gone for good.
And because soil is so critical, the specific type of dirt you're standing on directly dictates what kind of civilization and agriculture can thrive there.
Take alluvial soil, for example, which is incredibly fertile and widespread, or black soil, which is famously ideal for growing cotton. You've got red and yellow soils, which get their unique color from iron diffusion. There's laterite soil, intensely leached by heavy rains, and arid soil, which is super sandy and saline. Mastering these specific variations is absolutely key to understanding how human development maps onto the physical environment.
All right, on to our final section, Part 5, Conservation for the Future.
So the crucial point is, we've defined our resources, we've classified them, and we've mapped out our land. Now, we face the highest stakes possible, preventing our own depletion. The core issue here is perfectly summarized by Mahatma Gandhi. He said, there is enough for everybody's need and not for anybody's greed. Just let that sink in for a second. The root cause of land degradation and resource depletion isn't necessarily a lack of materials. It's human greed and the unchecked exploitation of nature. If we manage our toolkit based on what we genuinely need, the Earth can sustain us. But the moment greed overrides that rule of three, the whole system collapses.
But Gandhi's philosophy has to be backed up by practical mechanical action on the ground. How do we actually stop the degradation of our most vital asset, our soil? Well, we use brilliant field-tested conservation techniques like contour plowing and terrace farming. Contour plowing literally means plowing along the natural contour lines of a hill. It dramatically decelerates the water flow down the slopes. Terrace farming takes it a step further by cutting broad, flat steps into steep hills to catch water and prevent all that rich topsoil from just washing away. Guys, these aren't just clever farming methods. They are literal survival tactics.
So, we've covered an immense amount of ground today, from the fundamental definitions of a resource to the global strategies and the literal dirt keeping us alive. But I want to leave you with a final provocative thought. Knowing that your survival absolutely depends on this complex balance of technology, economics, and nature, what is your personal resource footprint? How are you personally interacting with this earthly toolkit? The blueprint for survival is right in our hands, but it's totally up to us to build a future that actually lasts. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you in the next one.